So Ryan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm real excited to make some real bad decisions today. So curious to see where we get.
So the last time we saw each other, you had literally just launched SERPrecon, which is your side project. You're running SEO for Razorfish, but you have kind of like a piece of, I guess it's a piece of software that kind of on the side. So tell us a little about SERPrecon.
Yeah, so SERPrecon is my software tool. It's not affiliated with Razorfish or my agency. I have a partner that I own a majority share, but I have a partner in the web dev space that's helping me with this tool. But yeah, so SERPrecon.com, and it's filling a gap we found in the marketplace of other SEO tools. Readers might be familiar with the Google leak that came out or the Yandex leak that came out about a year and a half ago. As I dove into those leaks and those codes, one thing I realized is, holy crap, our mental model of SEO is broken. Like, we think of things like keyword density and domain authority and TF-IDF. And when we looked at the code for this actual search engines, they didn't use any of that crap. And so I started doing this research and I'm like, hey, what are they actually using? How do they actually work? And we found patents and research papers and open source code from search engines. And I was like, I can code all this stuff. This isn't that hard. And so I put together a tool that looks at your website against everybody else that ranks from their content analysis point of view, using the actual metrics that search engines use. I mean, they might have slightly different weights, coefficients in their numbers, but using the same methods and the same techniques, the same type of machine learning and vectors and whatnot. And so essentially, you can optimize your content the way a search engine is going to measure it to be optimized. So it helps you in the content creation process, but you can also track rankings over time and understand not just who went up and down, but why. Was it, their lexical relevance, their semantic relevance? Was it a page rank issue? What actually happened? What metrics mattered to make those rankings change? And so it's been a pretty fun learning experience and an eventful launch. Had a positive first month, so can't say that much bad about it. But we're kind of learning as we go, not so much in the tool, but in how to run a company and how to run a tool.
Yeah, because I think when I saw you at PubCon, you were definitely stressed out because I think, again, I'm thinking to myself, I couldn't have thought of a worse day to launch a new tool than when you're kind of like walking around the trade show in Vegas, because like one, the signals for kind of sales are pretty weak in hotels generally speaking, and two, you're obviously very busy hanging out with people and lunches and breakfasts and whatever else. And I just I admire you for kind of doing it, but how
Yeah,
was
I would
that?
have loved to launch it earlier. It was hectic. I would have loved to launch it earlier than PubCon and then just talk about it at Pub. But I figured, all right, I'm going to be on a stage, and after PubCon, I was doing 3 more shows that month at different conferences, and so like I had to get it launched because I'm going to be on 4 different stages, and it was like, all right, I need to get this out there to people. Like, this is my shot. But at the same time, we were kind of fixing some bugs on the fly, and nothing major, right? Like, the tool worked, we tested all that, but you can never test everything the user might do, or ways people might treat stuff, or things they might type into boxes, right? We thought we tested everything great. There's always a couple bugs that slip through. And big shout out to my partner Matt, who runs Munello web dev agency, because he had his team on the ground working on this stuff and coordinating with me while I was on stage at PubCon. So it was a fun launch, but we no major bugs, thankfully. I mean, everything worked, but we got all the little minor bugs squashed now, and we're working on redesigning some sales pages and home pages and stuff, and also adding more features to the tool. But it was kind of crazy. Like, never launched a product before, and it was fun.
And the SEO community they're not shy in kind of coming forward with an opinion, even if you haven't asked for one. So on being received.
It's mixed right now. A lot of the expert technical SEOs are loving it. There's a few out
Experts
there.
or like actual experts.
Yeah, well, but what I did find is I have to do a lot of education, because there are still a lot of SEOs that are still working off that same checklist that like Rand Fishkin or Brett Tabke or Matt Cutts wrote in like 2006. Checklists aren't right anymore. There's stuff that we don't use, but there's still a lot of tools out there using it. There's a lot of SEOs with that broken mindset. They're still in the completely lexical model, and by lexical I mean words on page, right? Oh, this website has the word 7 times, so you should edit 8. You'll outrank.
Yeah.
That's not how stuff works. We've gone fully semantic. You know this. It's vectors. It's cosine similarity. It's the meaning of words with all the machine learning and even AI. And our tools just didn't keep up. So we had to kind of educate into how you can use this, which has been my challenge. So I'm looking forward to launching a blog soon to help educate. But, when I get to sit down with people and show them how to use it, they're like, oh, yes, this makes sense. I need this. So I need to do more of that.
Yeah. So I think I always find like, if you have to kind of like explain it to people, then, you're probably doing something wrong, because it does mean you're restricted by the number of demos that you can do yourself. Right. So, I always think you probably need to get to the point where just record a few of them and kind of pick the best ones out, the best versions of each one, and then push that together in a kind of like an FAQ, or, here's how to do this, here's how to do that. I think it's always interesting. I've always found whenever I've used tools, sometimes you see people using the tools and they use them for completely different reasons. We came up with the idea of creating them, right? I mean, the one that always kind of got me was Scrapebox, right? Scrapebox was kind of like a bit like a Swiss Army knife, that everyone used it for certain things. And I was using it for, probably completely different reasons to other people, because it came with functionality built in. But I think a lot of the developers, sometimes they throw so many features into it without really kind of thinking of what is the business case for this. So would you say that the tool SERPrecon is kind of more beneficial for enterprise level companies, or is it kind of more pitched more at the sort of mid-level?
So I'm trying to pitch it both, obviously. I think it's for anybody that's trying to create content or wondering why their content's not ranking. So we've got some great stuff. Instead of just looking at keyword research, we can dissect every site that ranks for your query, and we can take out the entities, and we can use BERT. Google's BERT's open source. So we extract keywords from it the same way Google does. And we can put all that stuff in. We use a little bit of AI. We can put all that into a content outline for you and say, hey, if you want to rank for this topic based on everybody else that actually ranks, here's the outline. Here's the words and entities and the topics to include. Here's the outline of what the content that the users are looking for. Here's the intent match of the user, right? You can give all that to your copywriter and say, go. And so we've got some enterprise SEOs using it. There's some big companies using the tool. And then there's a whole bunch of small independents using the starter plan, doing the same thing. And it's having great success. I'm dog fooding it internally on some clients and on my own personal sites. And, the people that are following the advice and following the recommendations, it's working out pretty well. So I'm excited to share it and expand it.
When it comes to kind of pricing, I mean, how do you kind of like arrive at your pricing model? Because I always find sometimes that's the biggest, they kind of started off and they were affordable. And then, for whatever reason, like they become ridiculously expensive over time.
Yeah, I actually think I'm not charging enough. So we went around and around with the pricing model, and I one thing I said to my partners, I was like, we have to make this affordable to the small SEO consultant, because I have a lot of friends that are SEO from a major company or anything, and if you want all the tools, you can't afford it. You might sign a client and your entire client's budget just pays for 6 or 7 tools. That's not sustainable.
Yeah.
So I said I always want to have a cheap plan, and I don't want to severely limit the features in it. And so we have a $10 a month plan that anybody can use, and the features aren't limited. The amount of reports you can run is limited, but you get right now every feature that the tool does, except maybe the ability to schedule them monthly or weekly. And that's because, I don't want you to use all your credits on one report, but you get every feature. There's no data we're not giving you that we have for the light account. So you can do the work you need to do. And, I don't want to price out the small SEO. Time we have plans for enterprises too, but it was really important to me that everybody be able to use this, because our message of evolve your SEO tools doesn't work if we price people out of it.
One of the things that, again, I found very unsavory work with, again, I've been working with some of the vendors that I've got like for many, many years, right? Probably in some cases like 5-6 years. I paid them consistently, regularly every month, and all of a sudden you'll just find that a subscription's gone up from like $29.99 to $45. And I'm thinking, I know inflation's kind of like creeping up a bit, but 29 to 45 seems like a bit of a jump, or they're imposing some restrictions in terms of this functionality is not working anymore. I mean, HubSpot's the one that killed me. They've introduced some new AI functionality in their tool, and you have to pay for it, right? And it's stupidly expensive if you want to use it. They used to give you firmographic information. So you type in a prospective name, type in the name of the company, the domain, and they would give you how big the company is, how many employees they have, all that sort of stuff. And they're basically saying, you want that information, you're going to have to pay for it. I've always kind of worked on the basis that, you should be loyal to the people that are loyal to you, that helped you kind of like initially. There's some companies I work with where they understand the concept of grandfathering. So what they've done is they basically said for new people, this is the pricing mechanism. For existing people, you stick with what you have. So the odd of, increased cost of cloud storage and all that sort of stuff, fine. But, like when they jack it up dramatically just to chase money, doesn't really sit right with me.
No, and I've got some tools, same boat. I've got some tools we use at Razorfish where the price has gone up, and other tools where we've been grandfathered in for like 15 years now, and we're getting a crazy deal. But kudos to those tools because we still use them.
Because in most cases, agency isn't going to go, well, like companies put their prices up by 50%, so I'm just going to go and jack up all my clients' prices by 50%. But typically, tools is probably one of the biggest overheads that most agencies have. In over and above people, the tools that they use are the kind of the biggest sort of variable that can really kind of impact the bottom line.
There's a lot. There's definitely a lot, and I'm afraid we're going to see an increase across the agency pretty soon too, because Google just did that major infrastructure change where they blocked a lot of scrapers and everybody had to scramble and follow the news that may be listening. Is Google, if you're not rendering JavaScript, they basically blocked you from using search. So if you used to be able to search Google without JavaScript on, and now try it, you can't. It doesn't work. And a lot of this people that were scraping Google for rankings and getting that data were not rendering the page fully with JavaScript. They were, they didn't need to, and rendering's expensive. Well, now they all have to render it. And so a lot of the tools made that switch. They got their tools back up and running pretty quickly, but no one's changed their pricing yet. And rendering is definitely a little more expensive than just scraping, the old fashioned way. So I'm waiting to see what happens with a lot of the other tools. Luckily on SERPrecon, we're rendering pages anyway. So while it did take us down for a little bit because some of the vendor APIs we use, it did take us down for like a day or two because some of our vendors weren't up, but it doesn't really break our tool that much, or it's not really going to affect our pricing that much, I don't think, because we were already having to render stuff anyway to get the data we wanted to get.
I watched Will Reynolds was talking about, ChatGPT and AI an awful lot, and how, although he was seeing like a lot less search queries, he wasn't seeing services. And a lot of that was kind of being taken by, people using Perplexity or Claude or what have you. What are your kind of thoughts in terms of how that's going to sort of
It's going to shake it up that much. I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine on Facebook early this morning. And so there's two parts to it. Is the first part is in the SEO business, and the second part is AI usage in general versus search. And so I kind of want to address both. The first thing is, we're lucky in SEO because AI works on the same principles as search engines, the same information retrieval principles, right? It's still vectorizing content, using transformers, things like that. It's still using the semantic stuff we do for SEO. So as SEOs, we are very well positioned to take advantage of this AI thing, because all the work we're doing, if we've kept up with SEO and we're still not following those old checklists from the 2000s, right? If we've kept up, we're doing the right stuff to optimize for AI. We're already doing it. And we just need to kind of make a couple tweaks here and there and, change how we approach things. But most of our work is the same. But the future of AI, I don't think it's going to be a search box people type into or a destination website people go to. I think we're going to see and AI be more ingrained into a device itself, into a browser. Right. There may be a day where I don't go to Google or I don't go to ChatGPT. I just start typing into my device or browser or talk to my device or whatnot. And it does a search, right? It's still looking at web pages and it feeds me back an AI response after doing that search of web pages, but it's not going to give me a list of 10 blue links. It's going to be seamless. It's going to be kind of hidden. We'll see search behind the scenes. We'll see AI behind the scenes. They'll be integrated and conjoined in some way that no one really understands. But as marketers, we're still going to want to be in it. AI is going to give an answer. That search, that AI, that thing, there's going to be an answer, a recommendation. It's going to mention a brand. It's going to talk about something. And we're still going to want to be there. And to me, that still requires marketing. It still requires influencing that search, even though it's not a real search, influencing that AI and brands out there. So I think the way we do our work changes, but essentially the work we do, I don't think it's going to change that much.
The 10 blue links, I used to love the 10 blue links because it gave the opportunity to have 10 paid links as well. So on the top and 7 down the side. So for me, I didn't like the idea of the 10 blue links going away. The 10 blue links has been on death row for like so long, because that's not what people want. They want the answer, not, one of 10 answers, because, more often than not, you've got like click pimps, arbitrage, this whole bunch of stuff that's not really giving you the answer. It's like the next step in the puzzle. I'm looking for the answer to this. Well, this one tells me there's a comparison site. This gives me 3 places. Well, that's not really the answer I wanted, right? I wanted one sort of suggestion. And I think, if you can get to the point where, if it is AI that gives you the information, this is my information, give me the answer. So I typed into AI, I've said, I'm doing a presentation, can you suggest some outfits to wear? It didn't actually ask me to say, what gender are you? How old are you? Or anything like that. What's the kind of target audience? It said, well, you may want to kind of like choose a nice blouse and a skirt. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if it had asked me those questions, it could have done a better job in answering it. And I think sometimes that's the piece that I think is missing. That was always the bit with again, with paid search. It's sort of, I would always look for the anomalies. I used to love it when I could find really incredibly cheap misspellings. I'm not insulting the person that's made the misspelling, because some of the words, it's kind of obvious the way they spell it is you think it's the right way, but it's the wrong way. And it used to be that, let's say the main keyword would be $10 a click and the misspelling would be 10 cents a click. And I'm like, I'll take the 10 cents all day long. What Google has done is just bundled them all. We've made it easier for you to kind of do it. It's like, well, it may be easier, but it's not cheaper. Unfortunately, not everyone could find them.
There's a fun anecdote, and this goes back to my days prior to Razorfish at a different agency with a different client. And I remember being in this meeting, and we were meeting with Yahoo, back when Yahoo was a search engine, right? This is going to date this story. And Yahoo was like, hey, it's Super Bowl, because we got Super Bowl coming up, right? Probably what time this airs. And they're like, hey, it's Super Bowl. Client, do you want to do a homepage takeover for the Super Bowl this year? You did it last year. It was so many millions of dollars. And, to have the whole Yahoo homepage be an ad for this client. And this client was in the room, and he was like, no, we didn't get any ROI out of it. Like, didn't really make sense for us to do. I don't think we want it. And the Yahoo rep shut her briefcase, and she's like, all right, no problem. Toyota, and I'm making this up, the brand name. I'm like, Toyota wanted it anyway, so we'll just sell it to them. And the CMO immediately said, wait a minute, we'll take it. And I remember sitting there saying, all right, you just said there's no ROI of this, but Toyota wants it, so now you want it. And that's almost the attitude we need to take with AI, because we're not going to measure the clicks in, last click attribution. We're not going to see it, but someone's message is going to be there.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to recommend something and somebody. And if it's not us, it's going to be someone else that we don't want it to be. And so as marketers, I think, it's time to move beyond the traditional ways of measuring that attribution.
Yeah, it's funny. We went through this kind of complete sort of like a role reversal. A lot of money flooded into digital because it was so measurable, trackable, accountable. And then, they introduced other channels. So you obviously lost with iOS 14.5 and app tracking transparency. So all that data vanished as a result of that. So you moved into the whole, the probabilistic and deterministic conversions rather than actual data, which marketers hated. But then you look at other channels like, take influencers. So many people kind of moved into influencers, and it'd be like, well, okay, so I paid this TikTok like 50 grand to kind of like promote my product. I made some sales, but I have no idea how many of them were accountable to that particular person's posts about my product. And equally, it may be that TikTok may not get the direct kind of correlation of the uplift in sales, but there'll be some kind of halo effect of additional search volume in Google. People will go to Google, type in the brand that they've never heard of before. So even though people are typing in a brand, they don't know the brand, they've just heard of it somewhere else. So everyone assumes that, oh, well, I'm not going to bid on my brand because, if they type in my brand, they know who we are. It's like, they know of you. They don't know anything about you because they've seen it somewhere else. You need to provide them with the same experience as somebody who, is kind of like, is well known to you. So I think so much of that, and so much of that is unaccountable. You can't really track it. You say, I know I spent this amount of money, I know this amount of money hit the bank, but I don't really know how it got there. And that's always the challenge. I think that's now rather than where we were, where it was all trackable and transparent. So
yeah, it's the old David Ogilvy quote, right? Where 50% of ad spend is wasted. It's just the problem is figuring out which 50%. That quote older than I am, I think, right? I think that quote's older than 40 some years old, but yeah, it still holds true. And I'm sure people at home can relate, or people listening to this can relate, is how many people have had a client where, and I know I've worked with like 17 in this scenario, where you'll do a TV commercial, let's say a Super Bowl ad, because it's coming up, right? Or a couple weeks away. You do a Super Bowl ad and you'll measure that ad by YouTube views or ratings and, awards it wins and whatnot. But the second you put that Super Bowl ad on your website, now you're beholden to sales. And so, wait a minute, why everywhere else that ad, when it ran on TV, no one cared about sales. It was views and awareness. But the second you put a page on the website that has it, now it's, oh, that's not getting enough sales. We've fallen into that trap of just because we can track it, it doesn't mean it's the right metric. It doesn't mean it's the right way to measure something. And I think we're going to have to adjust. There's going to be some tough times.
You talk to so many brands and they're trying to spend 90% of their money on basically conversion mechanisms rather than anything that's about brand awareness and engagement. It's just literally everything's about conversions. We've kind of spoiled advertisers by giving them such good performance for such a long period of time. They expect it to be able to continue. And unfortunately, right, I just don't think we're in a position to do that. That's not to say that people aren't making sales. I think Shopify had record sales last Black Friday than they've ever had. And you would say, with all that was going on in the economy at the moment, you would have thought that it might have been a bit softer, but it wasn't. It was like, double digits up on the previous year, which again, I was quite surprised about. I thought it would have been much softer than it was. But, but it's sort of, I just think so much more of it is like it's unaccountable sales that have happened. So, again, I think that you see a lot of agencies and they are, just doing one thing. So they're just doing Google or they're just doing Facebook or they're just doing TikTok. Yeah. I think you probably need to sort of spread yourself a bit more evenly and have a presence kind of in multiple places. Like, so you need to have your SEO locked up. You need to have your paid search locked up, your paid social locked up, your programmatic locked up, all the sort of above the line. It's all got to kind of like all tell the same story, but, be cohesive and kind of joined up.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people forget the marketing funnel, right? And I mean, these days it kind of looks more like a crazy straw than a funnel because people are going all over the place to different things. But to use the funnel example, we've been so focused on the lower funnel that we forgot to put more stuff into the top of it. And instead, a lot of companies are just taking out quicker, but you're not putting anything else in. And we see it, I've inherited, campaigns from clients in the past where they've, set their Google ads up to optimize for conversion. Look at it, it's just a broad match on the company name or the brand name. Well, those people are going to find you anyway, but cool, you get to track it now, right? You get to take credit for it and you can track it, but you're not filling the funnel. You're just switching the attribution of those people that were already looking for your website. So we got to expand. We got to think about filling the funnel. And as SEOs, we've been spoiled, right? Back in the old days, especially when we had all like keyword data and everything, we've been really, really spoiled, but we didn't have to worry about filling the funnel. We just had to worry about what converted and we could track it. It's great. And now we got to become real marketers. We got to come full circle and, full funnel marketers, essentially.
Yeah, it's funny. I think a lot of the things that I think people have taken for granted over the last few years are probably things that certainly be mindful to kind of not do. So things like, free shipping, free returns, all that sort of thing. I just think those are probably going to be scrapped this year because I think so many people, again, I've heard of, influencers that are buying, luxury fashion items, getting them shipped out, trying them on, doing a photo shoot and then sending it back. They don't even keep the product. They just kind of like send it back. So, and again, and it's kind of like to process that sale costs you money. To process it on your website costs you money. To process the merchant fees cost you money. To ship it out costs you money. To kind of have it brought back costs you money. You've got the depreciation of the actual product because it's not a new product anymore. It's a used product. So, there's so many people that I think, they haven't really factored that into their overall metrics. And I think the more people realize that they need to be mindful of that, the better, really.
Yeah. And I just experienced that too. And I'm seeing it change. To tell a fun story, I just bought a piece of hockey equipment and it said for waist sizes 36 to 40 is an extra large. And I'm a 37. So I'm like, okay, I'm right in the middle of this range. Let's get the extra large. Right. And I could not get that thing up over my calves, let alone even my thighs, put this on. Like there was no way this, it was the tiniest thing ever. Like I could not wear it. And so I emailed the company to do the exchange and they're like, oh, yeah, it's going to cost you, $14 to ship it to us, but also we're in Canada. There's a $31 customs fee to ship this through customs in Canada. It's going to cost you like $45. Why don't we just give you a 50% off another one coupon, or 50% off your purchase or whatever, and then you sell secondary markets. And that's what I ended up doing. I sold it to a teammate of mine in the locker room. I'm like, hey, do you want this? The tags are still on it. It just, their size chart's way off, because the thing that cost me $75 was going to suddenly cost me $45 to return.
Yeah.
And it made no sense.
Yeah, because I remember setting up an account with this a website called myus.com. So, because I traveled to the US quite a lot, I thought it would be like buy things in the US, get it shipped to a kind of like an address in the US, and then get it shipped from there. But like to buy anything, I mean, whatever, I just thought it would be like really, really cheap. And it was so ridiculously expensive to have anything shipped, right? If you wanted like, anything, like let's say you wanted to kind of like a phone cover for your mobile, right? It probably costs like $60 to ship it, right? $4 to buy it, $60 to ship it. I'm like, nah, I don't think I need it that much. So
yeah,
they don't tell you that.
I used to work with Canadian people, still do, but the one person would come to our office every week, and there'd be so many for him into the US office that he would, this person no longer works there, so I don't want to get anybody in trouble with the IRS, but it's because of the shipping and whatnot, right? This person was just getting so much stuff at the office and taking it back. And
like I got a few friends that they kind of go backwards and forwards to the UK, and I obviously go backwards and forwards to the US, right? And we have this kind of like an unwritten contract where if I'm going over to the US, I'll always buy stuff that they like from the UK that they can't get over there, and I'll take some over. And similarly, there's things that I like in the US, like Altoids as an example. So I like Altoids. You can't buy them over here, but I had a friend that came over for a conference. She bought me like 4 tins of Altoids. It was great, so
my favorite cologne is not really available. It is available here, but it's like $400 or $500, and I'm not paying that for it. But it's like Check and Speak 88. It's from London, and anytime I know someone going over there, I would like, get me a bottle of this, because it is ridiculously expensive here, and I refuse to pay that much for it. A third of that price in the duty free at Heathrow. Like,
it's like, if you go to Abu Dhabi or Dubai, you can kind of go into any pharmacy over there and buy so many things that are probably heavily restricted in the States or in the UK. You can buy them over the counter, like in any quantity you want, right? So, I found myself kind of doing that with quite a lot of like, high strength ibuprofen, paracetamols or something like that, like probably treble the strength that we have here in the UK. It always makes me laugh. Like here in the UK, if I wanted to go and buy paracetamol, they'll only sell you one packet, right? So if I'm buying 2 packets to just store one for now and one for later, one upstairs, one downstairs, I can't do that, right? So you almost have to go in disguise, or try and find separate chemists to go and buy multiple packets of the same thing, which to me seems crazy. Treat me like an adult, don't treat me like a child.
It's ridiculous. The same thing with allergy medicine, right? Because they think you're going to make meth out of it. And like every pharmacist and chemist I've ever talked to says it'd be the worst drugs you could ever make if you made it out of allergy medicine. And yet it's still restricted, because which is, if you have allergies, it's a pain, because like, you're like, no, you just bought some. Well, crap. It's in, I left it in my suitcase, or it's in my car. Like I need another box, right?
Yeah.
It becomes tough, but
yeah, you want stuff to carry with you and stuff to leave at home, right? So
here's the bad decisions part, right? We're talking about get away duties and pharmacy restrictions. There we go. Now we're into the bad decisions. I like it.
And it's funny, like so I know Ryan, we were talking kind of like at PubCon, and when we were trying to arrange this kind of meeting, we were talking about like carrying a few extra pounds and hip replacements and knees and problems with that. I mean, for me, it was again, because I had lost a bunch of weight. I found that the knee replacement that I thought I needed, I actually didn't need. I just needed to lose like 60, 70 pounds. So you had a similar experience. Is that right?
Yeah, I've had 3 knee surgeries as a result of playing sports my whole life. Hockey, football, baseball, wrestling for 14 or 15 years, right? So many sports. And, after the 3rd knee surgery, I put on a little bit of weight, because, it's hard when you can't really walk or month and a half. You just eat pizza and Chinese food all the time, because it's all that you can get delivered. And, so I've been trying to, I'm doing the same thing. And I've recently lost about 40, 50 pounds. So I'll take it. That's
Congrats.
It's a good number. And, Yeah, it's amazing the difference it makes on the knees. Unfortunately, I have no cartilage or meniscus left in either knee, so knee replacements are in my future. I've got a few years to go till 50. Not that many as I want there to be, but
I
I'm
guess
trying to put it
the
off till
benefit though,
50.
rehab will be better. Rehab will be much better, much less painful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just doing the math now. Like a knee replacement lasts about 25 years, and I'm trying to put it off so I don't have to get two in my life. I don't want to have another surgery when I'm like 70 or 80 to do another knee replacement because that sounds miserable.
I was talking to somebody who had a knee replacement in, I'm trying to think, in their 40s. And then, they were told that they would probably last like 15 years. They've lasted a lot longer than that. And then the question was, well, what happens then? You get, and then the question was, well, what happens then? Well, after that, it's probably amputation. Like, well, that's a bit severe, but they can't just kind of keep replacing your knee. They have to kind of eventually go, that's it. There's no more. You can't really kind of get anything. So I would probably urge anyone, like, again, I know this is nothing to do with digital marketing, but for me, I've met so many people in the space that in the SEO, PPC, something in common. We've all been much, much bigger than we are now, and we've lost weight, and we all feel so much better because of it. So if you listen to nothing else on this podcast ever, just listen to that. No, overeat, you put on weight, and it will be bad for your health, and it'll be bad for your joint. And if you lose the weight, your joints will really appreciate it. I always kind of said to people, I used to go onto a plane. I would walk down the aisle of the plane with my laptop bag over my shoulder, and I would say out loud, God, I really hope I'm not sitting next to a fat guy, because you could see people looking at me coming down the aisle going, please make sure he's not sitting next to me. So, I think I used to kind of get to the point where if I dropped something on the floor, I would say, is that really important? Do I need that? Because half the time, if I had to kind of get an ordeal to get down there, I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to leave that down there. I don't think I need that anymore. So yeah, I feel so much better as a result of it.
Yeah. And like I said, the drugs are great, but to anybody considering you can't just take drugs, or you actually have to go to the gym or be active and watch what you eat in addition. Like I still play hockey 3 times a week, hence the need for the knee replacement and diet and workout and stuff. But I'm feeling better. I'm not quite where I want to be yet, but I'm getting close. And it's been amazing difference on the knees though. So it's every 1 pound is 5 pounds of pressure on a knee when you're bending it and you're walking up and down stairs or something. So
yeah,
it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, I always remember that there were some people that inspired me back in the day to kind of like lose the weight, because I saw them and they looked amazing, and I know I've had lots of people kind of like reach out to me privately and say how much I've inspired them. I wasn't doing it for them. I was doing it for myself. That's the thing. I've always done it for me, but at the same time, it's nice to know that that other people have gone, well, if Jim can do it, I can do it. Right. I mean, literally all I did was when we went into just started walk because I needed the fresh air. I needed to kind of get out and do a bit of exercise. I wasn't doing anything at all, and I found it very cathartic. It kind of gave me the ability to kind of clear my head, and it just became a habit. And I think it's like most things, like anything that you do, if you do it often enough, it becomes a habit and it becomes easy for you to do it. So
yeah. And lockdown was the tough part, right? I had just had microfracture on my knee, which is a period of no weight bearing at all for that recovery. And right after I got the okay to start activities again, we went into lockdown. Like, well, crap. And that was a rough patch for me. Like, you sat on the couch eating pizza and Chinese food. Like it was rough. So
and it's funny. I mean, I know that when a lot of people go, oh, I like to go to the gym, right? And I've kind of discovered it. I spent a ton of time watching YouTube videos, and I discovered that there's a whole bunch of people that have posted videos where they have resistance bands, right? And there's so many. You can virtually like train any part of your body with a resistance band and get just the same sort of output from that. I mean, again, I usually, when I go out walking now, I have like an orange bag that I stick over my shoulders. It's got 5 resistance bands in it. I just go to the park. There's like metal posts. I'll just kind of strap a resistance band to that, do some exercise, and it just works, right? I kind of canceled my gym membership. I didn't really see the point in paying a bunch of money for, a gym that I really wasn't kind of going to that frequently. I remember saying to somebody, I belong to the gym. I think probably $80 a month. I did it for 13 months. I went to the gym once, and it was only because my boiler broke at home and I went for a shower. So that was like an $850 shower that I had. I just thought to myself, this is just not good value for money. So I just scrapped the gym and bought myself some resistance bands. And again, I can just throw them over my shoulders and away we go. I listened to, again, one of the reasons I started creating the podcast was I found myself when I was going out walking, I could listen to podcasts. I think sometimes music's good, but sometimes it's just good to have, podcasts to kind of listen to kind of help you with your mental stimulation. Do you have any, apart from this one, do you have any good podcasts that you listen to on a regular basis?
I don't. I wish I did. I was actually telling an employee the other day, I was like, so far this year, I think I've been on more podcasts than I've listened to. And but I just haven't had the time. I've been, with the Razorfish job, it's a demanding more than 40-hour a week job. I've got the side project SERPrecon going on. I've been addicted to cornhole lately. The yard game of beanbag on a board with a hole in it. I had to explain this to some international friends.
I saw a video. You're very good at that.
Thank you. Yeah, right now I'm like 20-something in the state. We'll see if that holds up for the year. But I've been playing, 3 nights a week now, sometimes 4 nights. I'm actually going to New Mexico this Thursday. So in 3 days, I'm going to New Mexico to play in a national tournament there and probably get my butt handed to me, but we'll see.
Nice.
I'm going with some friends. It'll be a fun time at least. But I've been doing that too much. It's taking a lot of time. And then I just got talked into actually going in with some buddies. We're going to actually open our own bar for cornhole. So more so an investment from my point of view, because I do not have the time to work at a bar.
Yeah.
I'm going to be investing in that. And matter of fact, I have to meet with an attorney right after I get off this podcast with you about that. But just, biting off way more than I can chew. And it's taking a lot of my time. So like most of my free time now when I should be, relaxing or doing relaxing stuff is spent on other projects.
But again, most of the people I know in this space, if they had free time, they would kind of they would lose their mind. I mean, I'm at the point now where I'm probably old enough and maybe financially secure enough I could stop work. I did that by like the Thursday. If I stopped on the Monday, I'd be like climbing the walls. I'd be like, I got to go and do something. So, there's only so many walks you can go for, only so many coffees you can go for. I just like the stimulation that kind of like, again, working in an industry that is still, to me, I still consider it to be a kind of fairly fledgling industry, even though I've been doing it for 26 years. I don't know how long you've been doing it, probably quite a long time. To me, it's like, I still think we're at the, the early stages of where it's eventually going to get to. And I really enjoy the challenge that it presents itself. It's no 2 days are the same. And I think if it ever got to the point where 2 days were the same, I'd start getting bored with it. But
yeah, I think I've been in this industry, over 20 years. It's safe to say I've been in the industry over 20 years. Holy crap. I did not realize I was that old, and you just made me realize how old I am. So, wow, it's been a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, I was in my 30s when I started it, and I'm now in my 60s. So
right out of college, I started as a software engineer, but my first ever job out of college was also like, hey, client wants this SEO thing. He doesn't know what it is. Can you figure that out for him? December of 2004 is when that was. So yeah 20 years.
I remember I started life as an SEO person. Like I wanted to kind of like do SEO, and I got a client. I remember kind of like landing my first client, and it was a $40 a month contract. And I was like running around the living room saying to my wife, like, I've got a client. She said, how much was it? And I went, $40 a month. She goes, you're going to need an awful lot of those. And I soon realized that she was absolutely right, that, the kind of the math didn't really work up that well. So I started to kind of buy paid ads to try and get clients that I could do SEO for. And then I realized that there was a lot more money in the paid side of things, for me at least. And it was something that kind of like I vibed more with. And I've really been doing that ever since.
Awesome. Yeah, your first client's always exciting, even if it's $10,
Yeah.
And I'm in that with the tool right now. Our lowest plan is $10. So I still get excited at every sign up. But again, I'm going to need a lot of $10 signups for this thing to work.
And it's funny, like, so I've always kind of found that the first dollar you make on an initiative is the most exciting dollar you'll ever get. So I created a database of basically brands, and I think it's got LinkedIn profiles, Facebook ad examples, Google ad examples. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that kind of like tells you about a particular brand and their go-to-market strategy when it comes to advertising. And I just started to kind of like populate the list. I got up to about 550, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to throw a Gumroad product on the back of it with an email, data sign up if you want it. So you can kind of like have it for nothing, but if you want to pay for it, you can pay for it as well. It's only paid me $10. I got so excited about it. I'm thinking it's $10, right? I mean, it's kind of like I buy like a beer in the Chandelier bar, in Vegas. It cost me like $12.50, right? and then it's probably 15.50 with a tip, right? So I'm thinking that's not even a beer, right? But I still got excited because somebody thought it was valuable enough to give me $10 for it, even though I was prepared to give it away for nothing. So
yeah, that's awesome. And oh man, don't get me started on the chandelier bar or the carousel bar in Vegas. I know we've all spent countless hours at all of those, and
far too many.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
looking forward to that again this year, though, right? I don't know when we're all going to be back in Vegas, but
I'm not sure. I mean, I should be going, like next week, I should be going to Affiliate Summit, which is on in Vegas. And everyone's like, see you there. Conscious, like, grown up adult decision not to go this year, which to me is like, it's never been heard of. But to me, it just is the logical thing to not go, because I just felt it was kind of, too close to too close to Christmas, and I just couldn't make it work for me. So
I still got to figure out this year's schedule. I did so many conferences last year, for me, right, which is like 7 or 8, but that's still a lot for me. And I don't know what I'm doing this year. I've heard tentatively from 3 or 4 shows that I'm probably, but nothing concrete yet. But we'll see where it goes. I probably need to do a whole bunch more. I got a whole bunch of SERPrecon stickers made up here. I don't know if people can see, but when I do get out to the shows, I need to start working this, but also got to do the day job of recruiting some Razorfish clients while I'm at the shows. But
of course you do, yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, but again, I think it's good that you can kind of like multi-hat and kind of like make sure that you don't neglect your kind of your Razorfish job in the pursuit. Don't do that. They end up sort of moonlighting for their own side gig while they make a ton of money, and they're not really doing their main job. So, I know that that's not something that you'd be doing at all.
No, the main job definitely comes first. It's paying the bills, keeping the lights on. It's the priority, and it's why I haven't done enough of the blog or the other stuff for the side.
I'm sure you'll get there. So Ryan, thank you so much for being on the show today. I know that all your contact details will be available in the show notes. I'll make sure that there's information about SERPrecon, and as you say, $10 for kind of like the base level. I think for brands that are kind of concerned about SEO, it's almost like a no-brainer. So I'll make sure that people are aware of that in existence, and I'm sure that they'll look forward to the blogs and the videos, cues and all that sort of stuff in due course. But it sounds like a good tool, and good luck with the success, and I hope the bar goes well as well.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm getting into there. We'll find out. But I appreciate you having me. This has been so much fun, and I'm looking forward to catching up in person next chance we get.
Yep, look forward to that as well. Take care. Bye for now.